started for the benefit of those who are here on time. Thank you for volunteering. Thank you for being here. This is the Efficiency Committee, and our purpose, we are an advisory committee to give the Board of Education recommendations to establish efficiencies in the educational program. And it has to create a sustained savings, at least 3 years, according to the governor's efficiency plans. And what we want to do is keep the tax levy at the cap. Now, this is only a small piece of the big picture. We're not only looking at the educational program. We are looking at many other areas for efficiencies. Trust me, Mr. Belmonte will have many of them, such as shared transportation, shared purchasing, shared services. We've already had conversations with Bayport Blue Point School District to see what we can do together to share and save. And that will continue. So there are a lot of other aspects. But if we want to keep sustained and keep at the tax levy cap, we need a plan. And we need priorities. And that's what we're here for, to take a look at the educational program and see how we can make it more efficient. Mr. Belmonte will report to us in January regarding his end of it, the business end. Now, as I said in an email, the middle school parents, teachers, and Mr. Murray, the principal, can't be here because of open school night. And I'll take the blame for that. I didn't put this meeting in the district calendar, and he booked it on the same night, and he already informed everybody, so this being just an informational night, we decided to tape it and allow people to look at the tape. I'll put the handouts in PDF form, or give people the opportunity to come in and get them if they rather have the paper. Some people rather have the paper in their hands. And for this meeting, it'll also be on Facebook. What I'd like to do is go around the room and have people introduce themselves. And if they have an affiliation, they can say so. If they don't, you're just here because you're interested in the school district. You can start in that corner.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Sweeney. I'm a resident of Sayville. I went to high school here for 3 years. My 4 daughters went to high school here, and my grandchildren. I'm interested in seeing the academic standards maintained and whatever support we can give towards reducing the budget in an intelligent way.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Stimmel. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. I've been in this position. This is the start of my 2nd year. I was the principal at Cherry Avenue Elementary School for 10 years.
And John will be helping me to more or less, we'll be working in groups because it is a large group, and he'll be helping to facilitate that.
Tara Patton, longtime resident. Both my husband and I are alumni. We have 3 children who have graduated the high school here, and we are interested in keeping our taxes down, but keeping the school district where it is, because it's a wonderful district. We want to maintain those educational values.
Rose Costello, Principal, Sunrise Drive Elementary School for the last 13 years.
Ron Hoffer, High School Principal.
Carl Angelosi, concerned resident parent.
Hi, I'm Pat McCullough. My family's been here 7 generations. We have a lot of people who graduate from this high school. I can't think of a better place to send your child. And I'm here for similar reasons. Keep the tax rate down for the seniors, but continue the education. And I have to say one thing, my kids got a great education here. They got a great job when they got out of college. One of them got an appointment to the military academy. What can I say?
Oh, hi, Linda Carson Hunt, 1982 grad. Love the district, feel that I should give something back. Thanks.
Hi, Dina Monastero. I have two daughters that recently graduated. Very happy with the district as well. Rebecca was accepted into medical school as a high school student. And I'm a special education teacher as well as CSE chairperson in a different district.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Mormon. I'm a resident. I have two children currently attending the schools, one in high school, one in middle school. I'm just here to make sure that, the academics stay at the level and the children's interests are, at the top of the list and, that have a responsible budget at the same time.
Hi, Sharon Rinaldi. Both my husband and I went to Sayville, and I have a middle schooler and a high school. And again, just concerned with that the academics stay where they, should be and just help out.
Alia Richards. I graduated Sayville '95. 5 years ago, I moved back here, bought my first house, opened my business on Candy Avenue. I'm an attorney. Just with all the nonsense that went on last year with the spending, just want to do my part to make sure that my kids aren't the ones who are kind of the sacrificial lambs here. I'm a recent cherry mom. My son is in first grade, and I have two babies at home, 3.5 and 1.5. And I want them, like you said, on the top of that list.
I'm Teal Rizzo. I had a son graduate in '08, and I have a daughter who will graduate in 2017. We have two businesses in town, and of course I'd like to see a more efficient district, but on top of that, I'd actually like to eventually add programs for kids.
We actually have.
More.
Me too.
Without spending and going over caps, I know.
I'm Melinda Moran. I teach 4th grade, and I'm representing the staff at Lincoln Avenue.
My name is Kate Anaya. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Cherry Avenue. I represent Cherry Avenue.
I'm Mary Beth Dealey. I've been teaching in Sayville for 22 years, and I represent the staff at Sunrise Drive.
Christine Richter Seidenberg. I teach French and Spanish at the high school, and I'm the STA building vice president at the high school.
John Belmonte, Assistant Superintendent of Business.
Norm Devino, school board member, always interested in hearing from the public to see if we're on the right track and see what your desires and you feel the needs of the community are.
Debbie Fitzpatrick, PTA president. I have 3 children, one high school, middle school, and elementary school in Sunrise.
Jonathan Vandenbroek, graduated in 1999. My wife went here. I have 3 children, 2 of them that are going to Lincoln Avenue, 4th and 1st grade, and my daughter's going to go in 2 years, just concerned with it.
My name is Marty Chuba. I live in the Lakeland Estates Co-op. I've been on the island 8 years and just concerned with keeping the quality with the taxes under the cap.
Vito Panzerino. I'm a 25-year resident here. All 3 of my kids went here. I think it's a great school system. It's a great town. I just want to make sure it's run as efficiently as it can be.
Nancy Stallone. I'm also a resident here. I have just one child who's going through the school. My older 2 went to Catholic school, but I actually have 2 sisters who are here in the district that followed me with a lot of young children, and I want to make sure that not only for my own children, but my sisters and my friends, all of their children get to go through the schools, and we all benefit from the programs, but while the costs are maintained at a reasonable level.
Christopher Pollock, lifelong resident of Sayville, obviously graduate of Sayville, concerned citizen, 0 children.
Jack Fitzpatrick, 40-year resident of Sayville, 3 sons graduated from Sayville, and I have 3 grandchildren in Sayville School District, 1 in the middle school, 1 in elementary school, and 1 in high school.
Okay, one overriding thing you can see right away, many of the volunteers here are graduates of the system. And their children went through the system. And many of those children moved back to Sayville. And honestly, that's what we all want to keep. Really is. Sayville is a special place, and we want to keep it that special. Meetings. For 2014, it's going to be the third Thursday. I believe I stated that in the beginning and in the letters. So that's October 16th would be the next meeting, November 20th, and then December 18th. Now, I understand, people can't make meetings, that's fine, but don't expect everyone to be videotaped because it's going to be too much group work and it wouldn't be efficient. So this is the only one that will be videotaped. In 2015, we shift to the fourth Thursday because of the holidays. And it's January 22nd and February 26th. Our goal is to make a report to the board on March 12th at the business meeting. Because we need a budget, and the budget will be at the cap. I learned one thing this year, the budget will be at the cap, and that will be April 22nd, 2015. Any questions on just that preliminary information before we move on to the stuff?
The presentation to the board is April 22nd and March 12th. Sorry.
March 12th. The board has to adopt a budget
Oh, on the 22nd.
on the 22nd.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so that-
So they need time to digest what we say to make decisions. Okay, the first handout item is the wonderfully worded, easy to understand property tax freeze credit guidance from the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance. And yes, I am being sarcastic. If you turn to page 3, I tried to highlight the areas that we'll be covering. The first is who? Who gets the freeze credit? To get the freeze credit, you have to be STAR eligible. In other words, if this is your second home in Sayville and you don't collect STAR, you are not eligible for the credit. If it's your primary residence and you do collect STAR rebates, you are eligible. Okay, and last year you had to reapply, and you can reapply at any time. So if you're STAR eligible, and as long as the district stays at or below the cap, and we submit our efficiency plan, and it's accepted by the Department of Budget, you will get the second year of the credit. First year of the credit you'll get probably the end of October. I would say a week before the election. Okay, that's done. For school districts only. So if you have a tax increase, you're only getting the school district portion of that increase in the first year. So this is the year 2 for the school districts. So not only do we stay at the cap, we need our efficiency plan. The efficiency plan has to show a savings of 1% on our tax levy, which is about $580,000. And trust me, we will need that and more to be at the cap, and we will get there. Okay, so $580,000 doesn't have to come all out of program. Comes from everywhere, but we're going to need well more than $580,000 to be at the cap, just with normal increases in budget. Turn to page 4. Once again, it talks about the year 2. Year 1 is finished for schools. Year 1 was passed budget vote, which was at the cap, so you are eligible. Now this year, again, only the school taxation part is the efficiency plan and staying at the cap. Your town taxes, your county taxes, your fire taxes, all the other taxes, it depends on whether they stay at the cap. So if Town of Islip doesn't stay at the cap, that portion of the rebate you don't get. It's each individual. And for them, this is year 1, because they have a different fiscal year. So they just have to stay at the cap. Next year, when we're finished, school districts are finished, there's a third year that's just the municipalities, and they have to stay at the cap and do efficiency plans. Simple. So actually, next October is the only time you could get the full amount of increase of taxes. Okay? This year it's just school. Next year it could be everything. And the third year is just municipalities. If you want to read through this whole thing, by all means, but we're not going through the whole thing. If you turn to page 7, just states that the Department of Budget has to approve our efficiency plan. And we can do some joint, we can actually do a joint plan with another school district, such as Bayport, or we can do some savings with them and put it on our individual plan. Oh, and by the way, the Division of Budget did not increase their staff, and these efficiency plans are due June 1st, and the Department of Budget has to get them to the Department of Taxation and Finance by July 31st. So in 2 months, they have to check every plan from across the state. I think we have a problem.
So when the budget comes up for vote for the district, you won't even know at that point if.
That's correct. But we, the first step is we have to be at the cap,
Right.
because everything else is moving. If we're not.
They should have really done it different. It does make sense.
Okay. That I will not argue with. Page 8. Again, it explains the idea that we can work with other school districts and local governments, and we do. Page 9. I've written down the amount for 1% of our tax levy. And once again, we're going to need district-wide to save more than $580,000. The cap is anticipated to be about 1.5, 1.6%. Plus, we have a pilot payment that's going to lower that cap. which is a whole other story and a whole other meeting. And honestly, $580,000, we save more than that every year through efficiencies. This is more about looking at the educational program, looking to maintain opportunities for kids, but perhaps have some priorities where we can do it more efficiently. Page 10. Page 10 at the bottom is where it shows that the savings have to be sustained over 3 years. It can't be just a one-shot savings for next year. We have to show, and Mr. Belmonte and myself have to sign off on the fact that it will be sustained over 3 years to the best of our knowledge and ability to predict. On page 11, I just highlighted that it's any cooperative agreements, shared services, mergers, and efficiencies. And the important part is on page 12. What is an efficiency? Efficiencies are actions taken by local government and school districts to improve the completion of existing processes or functions or delivery of existing services that result in lower costs. Okay, so it's not making massive cuts. That's not an efficiency. Because we must deliver the existing service. There's a lot of information on the government that, again, you can read on your own. On page 18, I'm going to bring this up now because it's a discussion for a January board meeting, an important discussion for our community. The credit will not reimburse homeowners for increases due to improvements in your property, and if you're reassessed, changes in a property's exemption status, or a jurisdiction-wide reassessment to the extent the increase in the homeowner's assessed value exceeds the average change in assessed value. Now, to me, what that states is that if we pass the veterans exemption, that will not be seen in it will not be adjusted for that in the credits. That's the way I read it. However, Mr. Verdone has gone to Senator Boyle's office, and Senator Boyle's office told him the opposite. So again, the government on one side doesn't know what the government on the other side is doing. So really, we're in the early stages, and we're going to find out information as we go on. Mr. Belmonte had a meeting yesterday on this, and they'll be ongoing, because we have no idea what an efficiency plan looks like. We don't know what supporting information they want. We have absolutely no idea, but we have to move forward because there's a lot at stake for our taxpayers. And at the bottom of page 18, it explains the 3 steps within the program, where 14, 15, it's just the school taxes. For the fall of 2015, it could be the school taxes and the local government. And in 16, it's just the local government. So really, that's what we're dealing with the property tax freeze. A lot we don't know, but we need to move forward, and we need to be prepared as best as possible. Now, what I'd like to do is to go over some of our data for Sayville. The first data sheet is this sheet right here. The enrollment numbers 2014-15. It's handout number 2, and it should have a date of 9/17, yesterday's, it's as of yesterday. If you look at this, this is right now, the students. Now, if you look at the 5th grade, the 5th grade has 220 students in regular classes. It's all 3 buildings, 220 students. Everybody get that? That 5th grade will next year become the 6th grade. And the 6th grade will move to 7th, and the 230 in 7th will go to 8th. And the 246 in 8th goes to 9th. So we're losing, in the middle school, 246 students going to the high school. We're gaining 220. That's a change of minus 26. And for next year, that's all in 6th grade. That means one less 6th grade section. In the high school, we're adding a class of 246, and pretty consistent. We'll have 3 grades, 9th, 10th, and 11th next year, 246. However, the graduating class this year is the last of the big classes, 279. That's 30 minus 33 students. Our anticipated kindergarten for next year is 183. And we're losing 220 going from 5th to 6th. That's minus another 30 some odd students. So next year happens to be a bit of a cliff as far as enrollment. We lose almost 100 students district-wide in 1 year. So that leaves either of 2 things. Either we will not be replacing people that choose to retire, if they happen to be in the right place, or some people that have jobs will be part-time, have full-time jobs, might be part-time. Some people with full-time jobs might not have a job. But there will be some effect of the declining enrollment. And that'll be, based on my initial estimates, over $580,000 worth. So next year's done, just by that drop. However, that's just next year. If you look on the back side of this, I don't have it on the back side. Here's where you have the projections we get from BOCES. And this is where, in 2015, you can see it's projected to be 183 kindergartners. Now, what I did, since this was actually printed in December of 2013, the 2014 column here was a projection. Next to it, I penciled in the actual. But if you look at the totals in the actual, it's slightly less than projected. and in the high school, substantially less. Now, with the 33 that we have lost in the high school, one thing I didn't add to that yet, because it is a variable, it does change from year to year, are the students that, from 8th grade, that choose to go to parochial school or private school. And normally that's 8 to 10 students. So that will be 8 to 10 students, even less, in the high school. What I'm trying to do is give you an idea of what I do every year. I mean, this is done normal state of business. And if you look at the projections for kindergarten going down the years, as well as the elementary totals, unless we have a major turnover in housing, which I don't anticipate, because people like living in Sayville. And certainly there's no place to build other than a house here or a house there. So they're not putting up any major developments to bring people in. So there'll be decisions made around 2018, 2019, when the elementary totals are small. Do we need 3 buildings? It's not something I don't want to see all over that we're closing a building. We're not. But it is something that will have to be decided, probably after my time, to be truthful. But it is the decision that will have to be made. Because certainly that's not efficient. We've had 600 in each of those buildings at one time. So once you go under 1,200 students in the elementary level, you can easily fit them in any of the 2 buildings with less than 600. Is that correct, Ms. Costello, our elementary principal?
Well, I will tell you that Sunrise Drive could definitely hold that amount of students, but yes, I do.
Sunrise Drive at its peak probably had closer to 700.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
So,
I can tell you that 13 years ago, there were 657 students in that building.
and I'm sure Lincoln was a little larger, right?
They were a little smaller at that time,
Okay.
but they had been larger prior to that. They had been at like 700.
And Cherry, I don't think ever hit the 600 mark, but close, close. So these are the numbers that you should be looking at when we start thinking about what's going on. Now, I'll say this right up front. I know the district doesn't want the Princeton plan, so it's off the table. But, if not that, what? If not that, what? And that's one of the questions we will try to look at. I want you to look at this handout number 2 again, the enrollment. Because this is what I'm talking about. Let's take a look at this year's kindergarten. It's a good example. We have 204 students, which is legitimately, for kindergarten, 9 sections. So even if we had the Princeton plan, we'd still have 9 sections. However, in Cherry Avenue, Miss Anea has 25 in her class. Well, the Sunrise Drive kindergarten teachers have 20 and 21. That's not efficient. So we will be brainstorming how we can change that. And we probably can't change it because now, with this group, because even though there's 25 in a class and they could move to Sunrise Drive with 21, once those little kindergartners meet Miss Anea, there is no way in heck they're moving out of that class. Nor are her parents going to allow that. And I understand that. If my child was in Miss Anea's class, I wouldn't want them to move either. Okay, so there is the major issue with the elementary. Middle school and high school have different issues, but they do, and we'll look at each one of those. So basically, how can we make changes to continue delivering opportunities for students while making efficiencies to maintain a levy limit budget? That's the big question that we're going to be looking at. How are we going to do it? Well, we're going to look at history. I will share with you, through the help of the principals, what other similar sized districts have done. Because where we're at right now is where they were 3 or 4 years ago. We have been able to, through our efficiencies, hold this off. It was inevitable that we'd get here with the tax levy cap, but we've been able to hold it off through great management from Mr. Belmonte. On October 16th, we will focus on the high school program. And I will give you information much shorter than tonight. We'll sit in groups, brainstorm, report out, try to get some consensus with the group. Try to get as many ideas as possible. On November 20th, we'll look at the middle school program. December 18th, the elementary school program. And as I said, Mr. Belmonte will be reporting in January on what he's come up with. After we go through all 3 programs, we'll then discuss priorities or recommendations to the Board of Education. And we will then select somebody to present it at the February 26th, March 12th meeting. So our last February 26th meeting would be to put this all together. That's the overall plan. Anybody have any questions on that timeline? I think we have a good group here. We have a group that's committed to, I think, what's best for the children in Sayville. And I think we'll come up with some great ideas and hopefully enhance program, because next year we will have coding in grades 3 through 12, I promise you that. Right, Ms. Moran?
Absolutely.
Dr. Shaw, what is coding?
Yeah.
Coding is basic computer science. It's what they use to create the games.
Oh, you mean like Java and things like
No,
that?
it's what's the name?
Scratch.
Scratch.
Scratch in the early,
Scratch.
in the
Scratch
early
and
years.
tinker, programs like that, and for the younger ones, to teach them the basic.
But the idea is to get them ready
to that
for
point,
Java
for Java
and
later.
C++. and
Oh, so you're
what-
gonna be
whatever
teaching them how to
language
do
hasn't been
programming,
written
so
yet.
the old HTML was really
Programming,
very
yeah.
easy too.
Which-
Okay.
Which is, our high-end high school, yeah, we have,
I understand now, I understand
Yeah.
about programming coding.
how many students do we have in the research program now? 40?
No, I didn't know how we were coding them. Like,
46?
are we giving them a bracelet on their rib? I don't know, what are we coding?
Over 23, I believe, in Rise 1 now. Right.
So we have close to 50 students in our research program. Most of those students have to teach themselves
Okay, I get it now.
how
I
to
didn't
do
know what you were
this.
coding. I thought you were coding the kids. The kids are gonna learn how to code it.
Students will learn how to code.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah. We're hoping to teach
So we
them.
didn't have to chip code them like that so I can track where my
Mrs.
kids
Morgan
are?
is worried we were gonna put barcodes on their foreheads.
Listen,
Scan,
knock them
scan
out,
them as they
code
come
them, and
through
I
the
can
door.
track them without them knowing, that'd be great.
Exactly.
Hold them and just change.
Okay.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Other than the educational program, you mentioned that there were many other areas that would be considered in terms of cost effectiveness, efficiencies. What are those other areas?
Again, it's shared transportation, shared purchasing, all the areas that Mr. Belmonte deals with in the business office.
How about all the printing that Deborah Burns actually brought up at the meeting? You know, in the beginning of the year, everybody gets that like 12-page for every student. You know, you get 12 calendars,
Certain-
12 free lunches.
Certain thing, yeah,
Is
that
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 part
is,
of this?
excuse me?
Is that part of what will be?
What I would like to do is, I'd like to get PTA involved. I tried last year at the Council of PTAs. There's a program that's a virtual backpack that HOPOG uses, that if we could fund, would be wonderful. Now, certain things in the beginning of the year, we have no choice. They're mandated. We
Right,
have.
well, I know you have to have the free lunch, and of course, that would be looked at every, but every, you know, if I have 5 children, I'm getting 5 copies.
If we have time at the end, we will certainly talk about that, and that's easy to do. If we already have an online presence.
It's the only thing, everything else is done online to the portal.
Yeah. So, yeah, but we'll have to have specifics on
When we go through each of the different levels of school, and we're going to, you know, help to identify where the 1% savings is gonna be, how are we gonna know what line items? Like, are we gonna be giving anything with monetary amounts that are in detail, not the big numbers? I mean, how do you expect us to help you cut the numbers if we don't know where the numbers are right now?
it. We're looking at program, not at budget. Program.
But how do you know if we can cut a portion of a program? Like, because you can cut a little bit of everything to get you don't have to cut one thing like you had mentioned earlier.
Correct.
So how are we, if we're gonna be looking for a number amount, be able to identify it without having some sort of numbers? I'm not really sure how you identify a dollar amount without any numbers.
We usually use a base of $100,000 per person.
Per person? To
Per
run for a student to be in a program, you mean?
No,
You mean staff members?
for a staff member.
So this is about fire?
So if we're identifying programs, are you looking at us to
We're not
eliminate?
firing, we
So-
generally access
So,
when
in
there's
other
not
words,
enough
I think I
program for
understand
that.
what you're saying. So she's basically asking, so I think what he's talking about, so he'll tell you how many children are in art illustration 1, art illustration 2, how many children are taking advanced Spanish or French, or he'll probably, is that what you mean? You're gonna give us enrollment on that?
You're going to have enrollment, you're going to have courses, you're going to have whether those courses go towards a sequence, you're going to have, if courses don't go to a sequence, if they're just a service course, such as SAT prep.
Right. So each teacher that's associated with a program has a dollar amount associated with that staff member that does it, as well as what it costs for for the amount of students, because the amount of students in the class can reduce the overall cost of the program.
Our supply cost is minimal anyway.
I'm not talking about supply costs, I'm talking about the amount of money it costs to educate that one student. With the, if you have 20 kids in the class with one staff member versus 40 students, it costs you less money to educate those 40
I don't
kids.
think we want to go to a class size.
Well, I'm
of
not
40.
sure how you're, I'm asking you to explain to me how
I
we're
will
going to
in
identify
detail.
that.
But aren't there other ways? I mean, the high school had so many opportunities. My daughter is now in fashion illustration advanced. And the class is too large and the schedule doesn't permit it. So she's actually sitting in again on intro, but Mrs. Urso is
Gives
teaching
her
her.
extra work, yeah.
Right.
They do that all the
So, I mean, to cut those.
We wouldn't cut that, give them the opportunity to do it within the other class, as we do now. We'll go over this in detail.
I think if we're going to be talking about the high school, I know my principal's here. I think maybe everybody needs to have some general knowledge as to the types of programs before we look at something and decide that it's not worth running, because we have people.
That's what we're planning on doing.
So I think maybe we need, and maybe we can bring in some high school people just to talk about some of the programs before everybody just starts slicing away at what we've worked very hard to build up, and what everybody in my building does very, very well.
Yeah, I don't want to cut one program in high school either.
And that might be what we want to say.
I think you could get it, it's only 1%, it's not really, I know 1% is still a lot of money.
Yes.
That might be the
I'm going to
outcome.
trust that you're going to give us the tools in order to help you, Dr. Shartner, but I don't see how it's going to
That
happen
might be
right
the
now.
outcome. I'm just going to give you the information, we'll talk about it, and you might say, this is all important for the kids,
Okay.
don't touch them. But we can't say that forever on everything, because at some point, we'll be making decisions. Now, based on next year, again, we're declining enrollment. We use 15 as, we need to have 15 students in a class to run that class, unless they can go into another class that has 15 students and just add independent work, which we do with several low-enrolled courses.
But we're also
Or
doing.
conflicts of
those in
schedule.
English class, and you have over 30, I believe, in Julian's French class.
Because in French 3, they get the sections based on the number of total students.
There's
So
more
my
to
guess
take
is
There's
in
more
the-
to take honors than regents, that's why.
So in the Regents classes, I would guess they're very small.
There's just one.
Okay, so there's 2 sections, 1 small section, 1 larger section. Again, these are details. I need to give you the details, as
I
you
think that's
said.
sufficient already, and another one of her teachers told me, so it's 31, I think, in her history, social studies, and English class. Social studies is hard.
But again, we look at average size. When they schedule, there could be a class of 18.
Right.
I just have a question. So with this large group, you had said that you were going to break down into subcommittees.
Yes.
What would the subcommittees, how would you organize them, and kind of what are we looking at?
I try to organize the subgroups based on varied backgrounds. So,
Oh, so they're already pre-established?
yeah, if you look on your name tags,
Oh,
you'll see a number.
oh, okay. I didn't realize, since I had a number one, I just, okay.
Okay? So, thank you very much. I will take the name tags back.
Do we know what they stand for, though? I mean, is everybody,
There'll be table 1, table 2, table 3, table 4, table 5, table
did I
6.
miss something at the beginning? Oh.
I'll have that all set up at the next meeting. Papers are yours.